Hello. So I wanted to offer a perspective on the act of saying no, the art of saying no. And the art of saying no for me is not so much about how you say the no, it is more about the space from which the no arises within you. Because when the internal no is very clear, the external no is not so important, it comes pretty naturally. And this is tied into setting boundaries because in the beginning, setting boundaries to me felt like a selfish act. I'm setting this boundary and I don't care about you, you deal with it. And later on, it evolved to be loving and caring negotiation where I approached that conversation with a bit of emotional intelligence. But of late, I've been reflecting on how it has evolved even further, especially since the last 6 to 8 months for me. I've said no to a number of coaching engagements as I got busier and busier as a professional coach. I've said no to some partnerships. December last year, I've said no to a potentially huge partnership with the university where I was asked to be a mentor coach. And I said to no more. I've said no to more coaching engagements in the last 6 to 8 months than I've said in my entire career as a coach so far. And just last week, I said no to partnering with an aggregator where the work was not fully aligned with the kind of work I wanted to do. And so I've been reflecting on what has shifted for me because saying no in any of these cases didn't feel like an act of setting boundaries for me. And I've realized that it started sometime earlier last year where I was doing this program called Coaching for Higher Impact. And I was working with a small cohort of professional coaches. I was helping them increase the impact that they would create with their clients in the limited time they have. And on the days where I would have that conversation where our session was blocked, I would say no to any other coaching session because I was fully devoted to creating the space and channeling my energy towards helping them. And so this whole idea of devotion emerged as this is where I want my 100% of attention and energy to flow in, and I don't want it to flow anywhere else. And so saying no became a rather effortless action because it was very clear why I was saying no. And in my mind, it was somewhat like a metaphorical temple where you would enter a temple, but you would remove your footwear before entering the temple. And you're removing your footwear not because there's a boundary that the temple is enforcing, but because you acknowledge the sacredness and honor that. And so as I reflected, I realized that when it is very clear what I am devoted to, it's very easy to say no to anything that I'm not devoted to. When I'm not clear on what I'm devoted to, it becomes really muddy because a lot of times we find it difficult to say no because there is some incentive in saying yes. For example, with this aggregator that I discontinued partnering with of late, like last week, there was an incentive. I was getting clients through them. I was enjoying having conversations with these people because they were, senior corporate leaders, and I was getting paid. So there was a clear incentive, but the ethics, the professionalism that this organization had did not match with my standards of professionalism, and so I had to say no. But what I said yes to was a certain standard. I said yes to a certain set of ethics, a certain level of work that I want to do. And the act of saying no there was actually an act of saying yes here. And when I was clear about this is what I'm devoted to, I want to live a life as a professional coach with a high degree of integrity, with a high level of standards of professionalism. And I expect that from myself, I expect that from my clients and with my partners. And because these people were not fitting into that idea, it was easy to say no. And so I want to leave you with this reflection to think about is instead of looking at saying no as an act of boundary setting, look at saying no as an act of saying yes, a full wholehearted yes to something else. Because when you say yes to something, you are honoring your desire. And then saying no as a as a counter reflection of honoring your true desire becomes easy. When you don't know what you're saying yes to, when you don't know what the real desire is, saying no becomes difficult. When you are really clear about the desire, saying no is simply an assertion of your devotion to your own desire rather than an assertion of boundary. And so that is the contrast that I want you to consider and see what difference it makes for you. I wish you good luck. I'll speak to you soon.